Every story has a turning point, a moment when everything changes. The turning point.
When I came home from the hospital, I was exhausted, not just physically, emotionally too. The surgery had gone well. At least that's what the doctor said. But something about being cut open, it changes you. You feel vulnerable in a way you can't explain. I lived alone, so I asked my best friend Megan to stay with me for a while I recovered. We'd known each other for over 20 years. She was the kind of friend who remembered my coffee order better than I did, the one who showed up without asking when my mom died, the one who once drove 3 hours in a snowstorm just to bring me soup. Of course I trusted her. Who else would I call? She moved into the guest room the day I got back, unpacked like she was settling in, slippers by the door, herbal teas lined up in my pantry, her robe hanging next to mine in the bathroom. Honestly, it felt kind of comforting. The first few days passed in a blur. I slept a lot. Megan took care of everything. She made meals, helped me shower, even brought me my pain meds before I asked. She was gentle, patient, always nearby when I needed her. But by the end of the first week, I started to notice things, little things, like how she always seemed to know when I was waking up, even if I hadn't made a sound. How she'd walk into the room just seconds after I picked up my phone. How the charger next to my bed kept getting moved slightly to the left. Not much, just enough to make me wonder if I was imagining it. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe it was the medication. Or maybe I was just tired and overthinking. But then something happened that I couldn't explain away. One night, I accidentally knocked over a vase in the living room. It shattered, loudly. Megan came running, asking if I was okay. As I was cleaning up the mess, I saw it. Behind the shelf, tucked in the corner, a tiny red light, blinking, and that was the moment I knew something wasn't right. I didn't say anything that night. I pretended I didn't see the light. I picked up the broken vase, swept the floor, smiled when Megan handed me a new glass of water, and told her everything was fine. Just clumsy me, no big deal. But something inside me had shifted. The next morning, while Megan was out getting groceries, I pulled the shelf away from the wall, and there it was, a small black device, no bigger than a lipstick, tucked behind a stack of old magazines. The red light was off now, like it knew I was watching. But I'd seen it. I knew what it was. I didn't touch it. I didn't even breathe for a second. I just stood there, staring at it, heart racing, like I'd caught someone reading my diary out loud to a crowd. Why? Why would she do that? I wanted to believe there was an explanation. Maybe she was worried about me. Maybe she thought I'd fall or faint, and no one would know. Maybe it was just safety. But if that were true, why hide it? Why tuck it away like a secret? That night, I waited until she went to sleep. I pretended to take my pills, turned off the light, and lay perfectly still in bed, listening, watching the shadows under my door. Around midnight, I heard her steps in the hallway. They stopped just outside my room. Then soft, barely audible, the sound of the door handle turning slowly. She opened it just a crack. I didn't move, didn't blink. She stood there for a long moment, then closed it again. No sound, no explanation. And I lay there for hours, not sure if I was more scared of what she was doing or what I'd see if I asked. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I finally picked up her phone. I knew the passcode. Of course I did. I didn't even have to look far. Just 2 apps over from her camera roll. There it was, a folder, labeled with my name. Inside were dozens of videos, clips of me sleeping, showering, dressing. close-ups of my face when I cried from the post-op pain. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that the videos weren't saved locally. They were streaming, live, and they had comments, dozens of them, some calling me the perfect subject, others asking for more. I don't remember how long I stood there, phone in my hand, screen glowing, that folder open, my name at the top, dozens of videos, each one with a timestamp, each one with comments, real time. Like I was some kind of show. There were usernames I didn't recognize, conversations between strangers, laughing at the way I cried, saying how real it all felt. One person asked if she'd show more. Someone else said, "She has no idea. That's what makes it so good." My legs nearly gave out. I put the phone back exactly where I found it, carefully, quietly, like I was defusing a bomb, because that's what it felt like. This wasn't just about cameras anymore. It wasn't even about betrayal. It was about control. Megan had turned my pain, my privacy, my body into content. And I had no idea how long it had been going on, or who else was watching. I wanted to run, pack a bag, call the police, but my body still ached, and I was scared she'd come back before I made it to the door. So I waited. I smiled through breakfast. I laughed when she made a dumb joke about the eggs being too runny. I thanked her, again and again, but inside, I was making a plan. That night, I pretended to sleep early. I left my bedroom light on, cracked the window open just a bit, and pulled the covers up to my chin like always. But I wasn't sleeping. I watched, waited. At 2:13 a.m., I heard the hallway floor creak, then the sound of her phone. She was whispering, not to me, not even near my door. It was coming from the kitchen. I moved as quietly as I could, crept down the hallway, slow enough to hear every breath, every word she said. And then I heard it. A man's voice, on speaker, low, calm, like they'd done this before. "She suspects?" A pause, then Megan's voice. "Not yet, but she will. We need to move faster." I barely slept. Even after Megan hung up the phone and went back to bed, I couldn't close my eyes. My heart wouldn't slow down. My mind kept replaying those two words. We need to move faster. What did that mean? Was she planning to leave? Was she going to take the footage and vanish? Or worse, was I the one who was going to disappear? By morning, I had made a decision. I couldn't stay silent. Not anymore. But I also couldn't confront her directly. Not yet. She was always one step ahead, always watching, listening. I had to be careful. I texted a friend, Miriam. We'd known each other since college. I kept it short. Need to talk, urgent, not safe at home. She called me almost instantly. I let it ring out, waited 5 minutes, then walked into the backyard like I was just checking the plants. I called her back. I kept my voice low, my eyes on the house. I told her everything. And when I was done, she didn't say, "You're overreacting," or "Are you sure?" She said, "Pack a bag right now." But I couldn't, not yet, because as much as I wanted to run, I needed proof. So I did something reckless. That afternoon, while Megan was napping on the couch, I went into her room. I told myself I'd be quick. Just 5 minutes. I'd find the phone, screenshot the apps, maybe email myself the links, then leave. But as I opened the top drawer of her nightstand, I froze. There wasn't just one phone. There were 3, and under them, a notebook. I picked it up. My hands were shaking. Inside, pages and pages of handwritten notes, dates, times, descriptions of my movements, when I showered, what I ate, how I looked when I cried, what I said in my sleep, and then a list with names. Mine was first, but it wasn't the only one. I stood there, notebook in hand, staring at the names. My name was at the top. Under it, 6 more. No last names, just first names. Ellen, Jody, Maria, Anya, Carol, Stacy. Some had dates scribbled next to them. Others had short notes in parentheses. 2 alert. Left early. Didn't suspect a thing. 1 had a star next to it, and 1 had a line drawn through. I felt cold all over, like someone had poured ice water down my spine. These weren't just people. These were episodes. I flipped through more pages. Taped to the back cover was a photo, printed from a phone, a little grainy. It was a woman, blonde, maybe late 40s, sitting up in bed with an IV in her arm, smiling. That smile. It wasn't real. Her eyes looked like mine had looked in the mirror last week. Exhausted, trusting, alone. And below the photo, in Megan's handwriting, final stream, 91K, pulled plug, 3 days later. I dropped the notebook like it burned me. This wasn't care. This wasn't even obsession. It was content, curated, monetized, consumed. And now I was part of it. I closed the drawer, took one of the phones, slid it into my pocket, walked out of the room calmly, like nothing happened. Megan was still asleep on the couch. I stood there for a second, watching her chest rise and fall. She looked peaceful, kind, familiar. And then she stirred. Her eyes opened, slowly, sleepily, and met mine. "You okay?" she asked, voice soft. I forced a smile. "Yeah, just checking the mail." She smiled back like she believed me, but something flickered behind her eyes, like she didn't. The phone in my pocket felt like a ticking bomb. I wanted to run, get out, leave everything behind, but I knew better now. Megan didn't act alone. That voice on the phone, the folder with my name, the woman in the photo, this was bigger than one person, and if I made the wrong move, I might disappear like the others. Still, I had to try. That evening, I told Megan I wanted to go for a walk, clear my head. She smiled, said it was a good idea, even offered to come with me. I said no, told her I needed a little space, just 20 minutes. She hesitated, just for a second, then nodded. I left the house with the phone and the notebook hidden under my jacket. I didn't go far, just to the park a few blocks away. I sat on a bench under the old elm tree and called Miriam. This time I answered when she picked up. She didn't waste time. "Where are you?" "The park." "I'm coming now. Stay on the line." But before I could say anything else, the phone in my jacket buzzed. Not mine, Megan's. The screen lit up. A message, no contact name, just a number. It read, "You shouldn't be alone." I dropped the phone like it burned me. My heart started pounding. I looked around the park. There were people, a man with a dog, a woman jogging, a kid on a scooter. But suddenly, every face felt wrong, every movement suspicious. Miriam was still talking in my ear, but I couldn't focus on her words. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from my own number. It said, "We're not finished yet." I left the park, or I tried to. Every time I turned down a street, I felt like I was being guided, pushed in a direction that wasn't mine. Like the city itself was narrowing around me. The messages hadn't stopped. From unknown numbers, from my own, most were short, cryptic. Some were just emojis, An eye, a camera, a scalpel. One simply said, "Keep smiling, you're doing great." When I got back home, Megan was in the kitchen, stirring something on the stove, calm, like nothing was wrong. She looked up and smiled. "Feeling better?" I nodded, but inside, I was spiraling. That night, when she went to bed, I opened the phone I'd taken again. I tapped through folders until I found something I hadn't seen before, an archive labeled pre-op. My stomach dropped. Inside were files that didn't make sense. Videos of me in places I didn't remember being filmed. My office, a restaurant, even my car. One was from a bookstore, 3 months before the surgery. I was browsing the shelves, alone, but the camera wasn't mine. I tapped play. There I was, laughing at something I read on a back cover, putting a book in my bag. And behind me, I paused, zoomed in. There was a man, middle-aged, baseball cap, sunglasses. He looked like anyone, like no one, except I'd seen him before, years ago, when I worked at a small clinic during grad school. He wasn't a patient. He was a researcher, quiet, always in the back office, never spoke much. No one even remembered his name, but I did, because he was the one who told me I had a rare temperament, that I was easy to observe, that I had a natural presence. I remembered brushing it off, flattering, maybe a little creepy, but harmless. Until now, the video kept playing, and at the end, he looked straight at the camera, smiled, and whispered something. I turned the volume all the way up. It was just one word: perfect. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my bed with the phone in my hand, watching the video again and again. That smile, that word, perfect. It wasn't about Megan anymore. It never was. She was just a handler, a face I trusted, someone they sent in when the target was ready. And Aiste was the target. Not because I was weak, not because I was lonely, but because I was interesting, because I felt things deeply, reacted in ways that pulled people in, because I looked good on camera when I cried. They'd been watching me for years. The surgery, the timing, Megan showing up, none of it was a coincidence. It was all curated. That morning I left the house without saying a word. Megan was still asleep, or pretending to be. I didn't take anything with me, just the burner phone I bought on the way to the library. I used the public computer, created a new email, uploaded everything, the videos, the screenshots, the names, the audio. I sent it to 5 journalists, and then to Miriam, and then I sent it to the same number that had been messaging me. No subject, no message, just a link, a warning. I didn't expect a reply, but 10 minutes later, it came. "You're out." 2 words, no signature, no threats, just an ending. Or so I thought. That night, I checked into a motel under a fake name. The clerk didn't even look at me twice. Room 112, 2nd floor, quiet, safe. Or so I thought. I turned on the TV to drown out my thoughts. And then my phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. It was a video, no caption, just a clip. It was me, from that morning, at the library, sitting at the computer, zoomed in, crisp, clear. Then it cut to black, and a final line appeared on the screen. "You don't get to leave the show. You are the show."
If this story moved you, there's more to come. Subscribe and don't miss the next turning point.